Hi, it's Laura. Welcome back to my new little series on getting started selling vintage online. Today I'm going to talk to you about Poshmark. So, if you are new to reselling, um, it is my opinion that Poshmark is one of the easiest ways to kind of dip your toe in the water of selling online. The reason that I think Poshmark is the easiest is primarily because of the way that they handle shipping. A lot of platforms make it pretty easy to like go through the motions of listing. They, step by step, add a photo, write a title, write an item description, etc. Shipping can be a thing that trips a lot of people up. If you are selling on eBay or Etsy, you really kind of need to understand shipping. If you are selling on Depop or Mercari, they make it a little bit easier, but they still have like multiple options. Poshmark just handles shipping pretty much one way. Anything up to 5 pounds is a flat shipping rate, which I believe is 767. It's been a long time, so I could be incorrect with that amount. But 3 ounces, 1 pound, 3 pounds, 5 pounds, all the same price. Okay. Um, as a buyer, that can kind of suck if you're buying like a little camisole top and you're paying almost $8 to ship it. But as a seller, it takes a lot of complication out of it. So that's one of the reasons that I really like them. When you sell the item, Poshmark then provides the label for you. So you don't have to purchase shipping. You don't have to figure out what website to go to get a shipping label. They email it to you. You slap it on whatever packaging you're sending out and you're bring it to the post office. It's great. Um, Poshmark lets you have a whole bunch of photos. I forget how many. I had to like go in and okay, they let you have 16 photos and one video. That's a lot. I think eBay now lets you have 24 photos, which is like a lot. Etsy is 10, Depop is 8. I don't know the other platforms, I'm sorry. But 16 is a good number of photos. When I do photos for my stuff and I'm cross posting, I basically aim for 10 to 12 photos. If I have more than that, I'm fine because, I list on, eBay, Etsy, and Depop currently. So I want to make sure that I have enough to cover Etsy. Um, Depop only lets you have 8. I feel like that's a little bit too few, but I just kind of remove stuff. And then eBay, I just, whatever I have left over after my 10 Etsy ones, I'm just like, okay, here you go. So Poshmark lets you have 16. So that's cool. So when you go on to list, you're just adding your photos, you're adding a title, you're adding a description. And then they walk you through everything. What's the category? How many of the item do you have? Probably it's going to be one because it's vintage. What size is it? When I'm listing sizes on any platform, regardless of what size the item is tagged as, I always list the size as either like small, medium, large, extra small, extra whatever, right? An alphanumeric size. The reason that I do this is because those size filters are what your customers are using to find you. So some people in that size thing will put small to large. That's useless. You know, some of these platforms will allow you to do a custom size like that, but your customer is not searching by that as an option. So when you're online and you're shopping and you're like going down and filtering through, I only want to find things that are, size small, for instance. That's what that size drop down is doing. I keep it as small, medium, large because I feel like it's kind of the most inclusive. So um, we all know sizes are bullshit, right? They don't make any sense. So I, generally speaking, am a size 6 top, size 8 bottom, so small, medium. And, but, a size 6 can be very different from one brand to another. When you're talking about small, medium, large sizes, even though those can also be different from one brand to another, they're a little bit, I don't want to say more vague, but more forgiving, I guess. So I always put that as the size, and especially because you're dealing with vintage, um, the sizes marked on the tags are useless anyway. If I were dealing with modern clothing, I would be listing the size that's actually listed on the tag. So, like a pair of Free People jeans, I'm going to be putting size 29 because that's the size on the tag. People who are looking specifically for Free People know what their sizes are. So, modern stuff, I stick to whatever the tagged size says, tag size says. But for vintage, I always use the alphanumeric sizing. That's just a personal preference for me. I am also always putting my measurements in the listing, always. Somebody listing something as a size small and they don't have measurements, it literally is meaningless. So anyway, Poshmark has this category, quantity, size, and category. Of course, it's going to be like women's, men's, children's, home goods. Um, when you go in here and you tap on the category, it gives you your options. So you tap something and you go through the prompts, right? Like most sites these days, easy peasy. Brand, vintage clothing. Majority of the time, you are not going to find the brand in their brand listing. Okay, obviously, if it's something like vintage J. Crew, you'll find it. But if it's like a Susie Perrette dress, or I think like some vintage brands like Gunny Sacks, I think is in there. But Poshmark, I believe, still they do list just plain old vintage as a brand, which is super helpful. So that's usually what I'm putting in when I'm listing the brand. Color, they let you pick a few colors. I try to go with, they don't have an option for multi-color. So you just kind of pick a couple of colors that, let me see. They only let you pick two. So you pick the first two colors that seem most applicable. Is the item new with tags? Yes or no? Probably going to be no. Style tags. These are just like keywords, so like bohemian, cottagecore, 70s. They let you have 3 style tags. They're helpful, but I always fill them out, but I'm going to be including whatever relevant keywords I have in my item description. So let's see. They have a thing called original price and then listing price. So for a vintage item, you're not going to have an original price, right? This is really useful more again for modern clothing. So, you have I don't know why I keep using J. Crew, but you have a J. Crew dress. And originally it retailed for $298 and you're selling it for $40. So you're putting in that original retail price. On modern clothing, a lot of times you're actually able to find that. But also because so many times people have no idea what the original prices were, even for modern stuff, I make shit up. I used to just put zero. Some people put like 777. Some people make up a price, whatever you want. The thing is that what Poshmark is going to do in what they show the customer, they're going to show whatever that price is that you enter, and they're going to have it like crossed off and then the new price there. So it makes it look like it's been marked down in a way. Oh, this used to be $300. Now it's just 40. I always just put zero because whatever I don't know that it makes a difference one way or the other. Let's see, listing price, the price that you want to sell it for. When you put your listing price in, Poshmark will show you how much money you're going to get after fees, which is really helpful because even though, like, I know in my head approximately what each of the platforms charge for all their combined fees and, if I'm covering shipping or not, et cetera. So I generally have an idea of how much money I'm kind of getting after fees. But number one, I've been doing this a long time, so I'm just used to it. But number two, even with that, sometimes it can be a little bit of a gut punch when you see how much you're actually making after after you pay fees. So for instance, if I were to list something for $39, after fees, I'm going to be making $31.20. And then of course, you want to remember that you need to take out of that how much you paid for the item, if you're paying any money for like shipping materials, taxes, things like that. Taxes meaning what you pay the government, not what the customer pays, because Poshmark handles that. So, all of that stuff. I keep it very loose, right? I generally know, I don't always know exactly what I paid for an individual item at this point, but I'm pretty familiar with, like, I usually am paying around whatever, like a $5 per item average, right? So I know, okay, 31 bucks, take 5 off of that. Fine, we're down to like, let's say, 20, $26. And then what are my shipping materials? I'm just doing poly mailers. That's going to be probably less than 50 cents for the amount of poly mailers that I use per item. I think that my poly mailers end up being like 6 or 7 cents each. I mean, it's very negligible. Tape, shipping labels, right? Like all of this. So I figure, I'm down to like 25 bucks And then, so I know I'm like, okay, this is good. This is enough money. You know, I'm making a profit. Um, I find that a lot of new sellers price things very low. So, I, especially in the beginning, was always comparing. Like I would go online and search for similar things to try to figure out how I want to price my items. That can be really time consuming. Um, Sometimes it's very valuable because sometimes you just don't know that you have something that's worth a whole lot of money, but other times you're just spending a lot of time looking things up. Do whatever you feel comfortable with. Just make sure that you feel comfortable with whatever amount of money you are taking home after you've paid fees. Um, it's nice that Poshmark kind of shows you that up front. Like again, Etsy and eBay aren't showing you that. You have to just kind of keep it in mind. And then that's it. You get all that stuff up, you upload your photos. And again, by upload your photos, I mean, it's like any social media app. You tap on the camera thing, you can access your photos, select the ones you want, and it brings them in, right? Um, it's super easy. When you sell an item, Poshmark sends you an email that includes your shipping label. So then you just have to print out that shipping label and stick it onto whatever packaging you're going to be using. When it comes to packaging, the post office does have free supplies and they are very helpful. But the things that you can get in the physical post office are usually only their flat rate packaging. That's the other nice thing about Poshmark is Poshmark has deals with the post office that you can use. Basically any of the post office packaging is fine. I'll do another video at some point on shipping. Like if you know shipping, this is not super crazy, but um, flat rate shipping means that you can ship up to 70 pounds for one flat rate. It's similar to what Poshmark does. Poshmark is saying, okay, you can ship up to 5 pounds for $7.67. The post office, though, has separate flat rate packaging. It's designated as this specific box that says flat rate box can be used to send up to 70 pounds for this price. And they have different sizes. So, like a small flat rate box is really fucking small. It's like the size of a small book, right? And you can put something that weighs up to 70 pounds in there and ship it for, I don't even know anymore. The prices are so ridiculous. I find that flat rate packaging does not work for me with the clothing I sell, but regardless, you can use those boxes for Poshmark. So, and those are the boxes provided free at the post office. Um, but this is where like learning about shipping becomes important because you can't just willy-nilly use those boxes on eBay or whatever. Some of those, I mean, they're expensive. Flat rate shipping is generally higher than like regular post office packaging. It's going to be beneficial if you have like a super heavy item that's like smaller. See, this is getting complicated now, isn't it? But so as far as your packaging, so you can use those free post office boxes for Poshmark. The post office also has a wider range of boxes that you can order from their website. I don't know that you need to go crazy with that kind of stuff right now, um, if you're new and just getting started and figuring out if this is a thing that you want to keep doing. I use poly mailers, and I'm sure that you've seen me use these things before. I'm just grabbing one so that you can see it. So, oh my God. So this is clear, right? This is obviously not what I just stick in the mail, but I store my items in these. And then when I go to ship them, I seal this. This is, to me, this is just like protective. I get very paranoid about like things getting damaged or whatever. So I seal this and then I put this into a second poly mailer envelope that is opaque. I get like decorative ones online. They're not that expensive. I get mine through UPack and Ship. UPack and Ship. I can try and remember to put that link in the description. What do you think? Let's place bets on whether or not I remember to do that. But you can also order them online through like Amazon or something. Because I'm buying them in bulk, I go through UPack and Ship. But you can easily go on Amazon or even like Etsy and stuff. People will sell them as like, 25, 100 per pack, something like that, right? It's pretty easy. So, you package your item up. Um, People on Poshmark get all weird. And by people, I mean other sellers, sometimes customers. But if you go into like Facebook groups or you talk to other people who do Poshmark, there's all sorts of other like extraneous bullshit that you're going to hear about. People including little freebies, people wrapping things up really pretty and all that stuff. Um, a lot of that is bullshit. I mean, a lot of it is very nice. Like it can be really fun to receive a package. It's all wrapped in pretty tissue paper, has a little ribbon bow and has like a pretty little thank you card and they threw candy in there, whatever, right? But also a lot of the times people throw in free stuff and I don't want it. So now I just have either garbage or things that are not garbage, but that I want to throw away and then feel guilty about, or that now I have to donate or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, so I don't put freebies in because I feel like most of the time a lot of people get annoyed and it's just like another job for them to do. Um, I used to do a little thank you note. I would go to Target and get, the dollar spot, and I would get like little note cards from there, like cute little envelope cards. And they were relatively cheap. And I would write like a little thank you note and then my shop name and stuff. And until I got to a point where I just used business cards. So now I just have business cards. The back of them is mostly blank. It has a little QR code on it and it has my website written on it. And then I just write, Mary, thank you so much, heart, Laura, whoever. And then I put that on the package. So that serves as like a reference as to who they purchased this item from. Plus, it's a nice little thank you note. And I get a fair amount of compliments on my packaging being like, that it was like well presented. And literally all I'm doing, plastic poly mailer, I fold the thing so that it like looks cute, like if it's a collared shirt, I do like the tri-fold so that the collar is sort of centered. And if there's like a cute print on the front of the shirt, I fold the shirt so that that's the thing that they're seeing. So, I'm just presenting the item nicely. I stick it in here, put the little thank you note on it, right? And then throw the label on there. I have a label maker. Obviously, if you're new at selling, that's probably a thing you're not going to have. You do need to have a printer. Actually, I say that I had to have a printer. However, I believe that a lot of these sites now, when they send you your label, it may include a QR code that you can just take to the post office. You have the post office worker scan that QR code and it will print the label up at the post office. So you don't even need to have a printer. I wouldn't be surprised if Poshmark has that, but I'm going to be honest, I do not know for sure if that's something that they have. So um, other than that, though, the post office won't print labels for you. So if you don't have a printer and they don't have the QR code option, you're going to need to find a printer, right? So, but that's it. It's pretty easy. And, I think that any of these platforms are going to be overwhelming the first times that you're doing them. So I say, like, pick one or two items and get them listed up on whatever site. There are so many other factors, like Poshmark can seem really complicated for a couple of reasons. Number one, they now have live show options. I've never done one. I've never participated in one because I've been doing my live shows on Whatnot. I don't really sell on Poshmark. Um, that's not a thing that you want to get involved in doing in the beginning. You know what I mean? I think that any live selling show is a thing that you only want to start doing when you're pretty familiar with reselling in general, online selling, shipping, all that stuff. It can be so overwhelming and complicated that if you're not already familiar with selling online, you may not want to get involved in live selling. Poshmark also does a lot of stuff where they talk about sharing. They have a lot of things like Posh shows, and they have a feed, and they have Posh parties or whatever. Like overall, a lot of that stuff is bullshit. They talk about, you know, um, sharing your item to the feed, to other parties, whatever. It's like all this crazy stuff where basically you're in the app and you go to your item and you're kind of like taking that item and like showing it to the rest of Poshmark in their like regular feed, but nobody shops Poshmark via the regular feed, right? When you go to Poshmark to buy something, you're going to the search bar and looking specifically for whatever item, or you are going and filtering out by like brand, like I'm looking for Free People yoga pants. So I go to the Free People filter, then I filter down by pants, then maybe by leggings, and then maybe by size, right? So that's generally how people are searching for things. They're not randomly going to, Poshmark's feed or whatever, just the brand's general explore page and looking for things that way. When you share your item within Poshmark, um, and you'll see, like when you go to share an item, God help me, I haven't done this in so long. Ridiculous. Here, share listing. You have the option to share it to your followers. So just the other people that follow you, it will show up in their feeds. You can share it to a particular party that's going on, but all these parties that they have are like themed. It's basically like featuring things in a separate feed. It's weird. I don't know. Like they'll have a Free People party. So you can only share to the party if it's a Free People item that you're selling, right? Or then, of course, you can share it to like all of the external places. There's a lot of talk about sharing items on Poshmark and needing to do that to be a successful seller. It's one of the reasons that I stopped using Poshmark. I do not want to spend all day. I mean, you have to go on there and you're just like, share to followers, done, share to followers, done. You sit there and you're just hitting these buttons over and over and over again. And if you end up if you have 5 items, that's no big deal. But if you have like 200 items, that's a lot. Some people will hire like a bot company to sit there and do that, like an automated system to do that for them. I'm already paying 20% fees to Poshmark. I don't want to pay more money to perform this function that Poshmark wants me to perform for no fucking reason. Basically, they're trying to keep people in the app and active in the app. It looks good for their numbers, essentially. So that's the thing that I don't really think that you need to worry about. All of this like following people and gaining followers, I don't know how much that matters either. Again, if you're looking for a specific item, it's not going to not show you the item just because you're not following that person. This again is all like when I go to my Poshmark feed, it's only showing me things from people that I follow. I'm not shopping the feed, right? If I go, to the vintage category and just search new things in vintage, it's going to show me everybody, whether I'm following them or not. So I don't worry about following people. I don't worry about gaining followers. Poshmark did, when I was doing it, I assume they still do, have all of these little requirements. If you want to become a Poshmark ambassador or ambassador 2 or ambassador 12, whatever the fuck their programs are now, and you have to like complete all these little tasks. You have to get this many followers, follow this many people, share this many items from somebody else's closet, all this stuff. Like it's a lot of busy work that doesn't really result in anything, in my opinion. I don't know. I did all of it back in the day. It was very time consuming. That stuff I wouldn't bother doing again. But, I have a friend who wanted to get rid of some extra items that she had in her personal closet, and she used Poshmark to do it. And she did pretty well. And she wasn't playing all these games with following people and sharing things constantly. She wasn't doing all that because she's not trying to be a reseller. She just wanted to sell these things from her closet that she didn't wear anymore. Most of these platforms will kind of bump you up if you're a new seller. They will give you a little boost in search because A, they want to encourage you to keep doing this. And B, the algorithm hasn't quite figured you out yet. So it starts taking your item and showing it to people so that it can sort of categorize it as far as like who it wants to show these items to in the future, right? And that's all stuff that I'm learning by watching videos from the E-Rank people. It's all very educational, very interesting. But for the most part, that's pretty easy with Poshmark. I think some of the things that make it seem complicated are things that you don't really need to worry about doing. You can do all those things. There are people who do a lot of Poshmark shows. They do great. There are a lot of sellers who sell almost exclusively on Poshmark, and they get all super into doing like posh parties or posh and sip events and all, and that's cool. That's great if you want to do that. It's not my thing. And I don't think that it's necessary to do well selling on Poshmark, especially if you're just starting out. So that's kind of my little spiel on Poshmark. If you have questions about it, let me know. I'm sorry that I couldn't do anything a little bit more advanced technologically, but are we surprised, right? Um, I think that the next platform that I will talk about maybe will be Depop because it's very similar to Poshmark. So um, thank you so much for watching this. I hope it was helpful, but let me know if it wasn't or if there's something else that you were looking to know. And I'll see you again soon. Thanks.